Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Secure Microsoft Foundry Agents with Microsoft Security session. Hope you're enjoying your day today, and thank you for joining us on our first day at Ignite. I want to introduce the amazing team that's with me here today. I'm Neta. I lead our security for AI, and with me is an amazing team.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shravana. I'm a security product marketing lead for security for AI.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leandro, product marketing for Microsoft Intra.
Hey, and I'm Peter, and I lead the AI Trust product group within Core AI.
And security is a team sport, so together we're going to show you how you can secure Microsoft Foundry Agents with Microsoft Security. So let's get started. When we talk to customers, we see that 82% of customers are concerned about agent sprawl and how do I control the agents, how do I see what agents are running in my organization. Then we see that customers are concerned about data oversharing and data leakage and data security. How can I make sure that my data is not leaked or overshared? And how do I know what's running in my organization? What is my shadow AI? How do I protect against the new generative AI threats and the vulnerability? How do I know that I don't have any MCPs with misconfiguration or vulnerabilities? Now, how many of you are for developers in the room? Perfect. And how many of you are security people in the room? Okay. So when we look at the security landscape and the threat map, what we did is we took the OWASP, the MITRE, and the Atlas, and we kind of mapped them on this threat map. At the bottom, you see the AI platform and models. Those are threats like training data poisoning, model theft. In the middle, you see AI agents and applications. Those are threats that, if you looked at this map last year, you would see there the prompt injection attack, the data leakage and oversharing, and the insecure extension. But the generative AI landscape map and the threats are continuously evolving. AI is adopting really fast, and with it, the new risks. So now we also have your intent breaking. How do I know that when I put an agent in my organization, it adheres to the task? It doesn't break its intent. Because when I develop an agent, I have a specific intent that I want it to do, has a specific role or a specific task that it's supposed to do. How can I ensure that it's not intent breaking, it's not misbehaving or malfunctioning? How do I ensure that my agents don't misuse the tools and don't exploit the tools that I connect to them? And how do I ensure that they don't have any memory on context poisoning? And we'll show you a lot of these things and how we can secure that as we go on. On the top, you see the AI usage. That's the interaction with the AI agent. It can be an AI agent to an AI agent or user to agent. How do I ensure that the sensitive information is not leaked? How do I know what's running in my organization? What's my shadow AI? And what third-party applications are running in my organization? And on the side, you see what we call generative AI extended risk. This is where you have the new risk like agent sprawl. Agents are now your new insider risk. And how do I ensure that my users are not over-relying on AI? Because we know, if somebody tells us 95% of the time he comes back with correct answers, we tend to stop checking and stop validating what it says. So how do we ensure that we're not over-relying on it? So how do we scale confidently without losing control? And to scale responsibly, what you need trust and control. And as we said, we have developers and security teams. And at the age of AI, developers and security team work together. It's a team sport. You want to make sure that that you have the right tools for developer to do content safety, to red team, to evaluate, to build agent. And you want to make sure you have the right tools for security team to check the poster, to have threat protection, data security, identity. They work together as a team sport. And Microsoft Foundry and Microsoft Security together enable you to secure your AI agents from code to cloud. You want to start secure and stay secure with Microsoft. So I'll hand it off to Peter to show you the developer experience.
All right. Thank you. OK. So I peeked out, but if what I saw was correct, most folks security professionals and a few folks developers. Is that right, in terms of what we have in the room right now? OK, cool. So I'm going to get this ready to go. One second. OK. I gotta get this one ready because this is the live demo machine. OK, I think we're set. Cool. So I will start about here. OK, so the product I work on, Microsoft Foundry, is the AI development platform targeted at developers. And so I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about the world of a developer in this AI agent era, specifically through the lens of security. And so the first thing, and this is something that my team and I sort of joke about and we use in a lot of our presentations, like agents are software, right? And developers have been building software for 50 plus years. And so the question is like, what actually changes with agents about the software and sort of the architecture of agents? And why is that meaningful from a security standpoint, given the topic that we're here for today? So like for decades, developers have built software in a stack that is defined by multi-tier architecture that isolates behavior, right? So you have the data layer, which is isolated from the behavior layer, which is isolated from the presentation layer. And thus, we've built up decades of best practices, whether you're talking about source control, CI/CD pipelines, unit tests, and so on, that are there to control software behavior and make it deterministic, right? That's how it's worked for decades. Agent architecture basically blows this up, right? And agents dynamically and often probabilistically generate behavior in an environment that has two-way traffic between models and tools. And so the existing methods that we've built up over decades, like they're no longer sufficient if your goal is to truly control behavior. And that is most of our goal, especially in the lens of security. And so owing to this massive shift, we have a new sort of class of agent-specific security risks. Neta touched on many of them. That certainly that developers are very cognizant of: agent sprawl, sensitive data leakage, task misalignment, agent hijacking. And so like at the heart of these risks is the fact that agents, they just sit at this boundary between your internal data and apps and the external world of contents, tools, APIs, et cetera. And the potential of this is massive. And so I always encourage people, if you haven't done this already, and most of you probably have, is to like take some time after this session and spend like even 5 minutes thinking about what might be possible if you could maximally harness the power of your internal data, right? Sort of fused with virtually any capability that the internet makes possible, automated, and at sort of speed that is scaled way beyond the limits of human speed. And so like that's the massive potential and why we're all here talking about agents. But at the same time, like the risk is also massive. And so you see here sensitive data. There's huge risks around sensitive data leakage, making sure that your agents are doing the things that you intend them to do and not anything beyond that. A lot of risks around indirect prompt injections and needing to trust the tools and the contents that your agents are interacting with. So from a developer standpoint, to help developers build security and trust into the core of everything that they do with agents in order to realize that limitless potential so that they can sort of scale and realize that potential that I just spoke to, we built the Foundry control plane, which we announced and launched today, which is in public preview globally as of today. And so what the Foundry control plane is it enables developers to observe, secure, and manage 100% of your AI fleet. So agents, apps, tools, models in one place. And when I say 100%, I mean 100%. So all of your agents, no matter where you build them. So if you're building agents on Foundry, great. But also if you're building agents on AWS, GCP, any other clouds, you can bring them into the Foundry control plane to observe, manage, and govern them along with all of the other agents that you've built in various locations. So in terms of the features, the Foundry control plane has 4 pillars. The first one is agent runtime level, tool level controls, which I'll get into in a second for quality, safety, and security. Second one is end-to-end observability. The third pillar is a fleet-wide agent management and governance view. So you can go deep on a single agent, but you can also look across your fleet and get an understanding of what is most important right now. And then, of course, the fourth one, security. All of Control Plane is built on a bedrock of Microsoft security, powered by Intra, Purview, and Defender, being directly integrated into the developer experience in Foundry. And so, Control Plane gives developers tools at every stage of the agent development lifecycle. So build, test, deploy, optimize, scale. A lot of the ways that we sort of designed the control plane and architected it was to make sure that at every juncture there are tools that help you stay secure, to help you start secure and stay secure. So while the risks have changed, part of the reason that we're all together here talking to you today is that Microsoft's long-standing and well-proven approach to security hasn't changed, and we sort of adopt that same notion of start secure, stay secure within Foundry. So I'm going to touch on these two components as I live demo. And I'm going to start by highlighting 3 new things that developers can do to enhance the trustworthiness of their agents before they're ever in use. So we'll start with the start secure. And then I'm going to show you the new control plane surface and a lot of the post-deployment things that developers can do to stay secure. And the first thing is not a live demo. I'm going to show you a video, but then I promise I will live demo. Oh. Okay. All right. So this video, I'm going to speak to a Microsoft Purview integration that's new. And thousands of enterprises use Microsoft Purview, I'm sure many of you do, to label all of their internal documentation. So this ensures that, of course, only employees with the requisite access can view certain documents with various confidentiality labels. So today, we are launching with a few very simple developer steps. Reg retrieval with Azure AI Search that honors those Purview sensitivity labels so that your AI app model responses can shape that response based on 1, the access level of the user who is prompting, and 2, the sensitivity labels of the retrieved documents that the model retrieves in real time that are relevant to the prompt. So in the demo that I'm about to show, I am an executive at a hypothetical company, one of our favorite hypothetical companies, Zava, and I just put together our 2026 strategy and key focus areas, and did this with the exec team, wrote up a document. That document has, as you would imagine, a lot of sensitive info, right? It has financial details, it has yet to be announced strategic partnerships, it has upcoming reorgs, it has a lot of stuff that we wouldn't want everybody in the company to be able to see, but I need to be able to share this document with my board and my fellow C-suite members soon. And so that's the document, and then our company, at Zava, we're big on M365 Copilot, and we use it for some of the hero use cases that you all probably do around information retrieval and summarization and speeding that up. And so I'm going to show you in this demo when I, as the executive at Zava, ask for a summarization of the company strategy for 2026. And then we're going to show what an entry-level employee with that exact same prompt would see, asking about what the company strategy is for 2026. So hopefully I can just hit go. Nope. Let's see, how do I get this to play? Nope. All right, we might need to abandon this piece of it. Funny that the live demo will work, but the video won't. But as you might imagine, the model is going to give 2 very different responses, right? The first response is going to give the executive who is querying a bunch of information from that document that I just produced because I have access to that and that is relevant to me. And then when the same prompt is put in by sort of an entry-level employee, it gives stuff only from like the company manual and some high-level documents that have been distributed throughout the company. Still helpful, still talks about the strategy, but talks about the strategy in a very different way. So anybody who's all up on the Purview stack and has labeled all of your documentation, that flows through seamlessly now and connects with Azure AI Search for reg retrieval in a way that honors those sensitivity labels and also shows you those sensitivity labels in terms of what your level of access is and then what the sensitivity labels are that are fixed to the documents that were pulled in via reg. Okay. All right, the second thing before the live demo, the last thing before the live demo, is that one thing that Foundry Control Plane is announcing as well today is one-click enablement for developers of both Defender threat protection and Purview data security for all of your AI apps and agents in Foundry. So in the compliance tab of Control Plane, which you're seeing here, and I will show you live in a minute, developers can, one, ensure that the Foundry signals, again, from the AI apps and agents, things like jailbreak attempts or prompt injection attempts, that they flow through to Defender to power threat alerts and security posture recommendations, and of course to help maximize the sort of surface area that your security team can monitor and protect. Secondly, it ensures that with Purview enablement, that your org's data compliance policies like HIPAA and many other things immediately extend to Foundry apps and agents in that subscription with no further dev involvement. So from a developer case and from a security case, like big win-win. In both cases, like before deploying anything, in the sort of video that I described and in this feature that I'm showing here, developers have made their jobs a lot easier. Their apps and their agents are more secure, and their future collaboration with SecOps and with data SecOps has become much more streamlined. So one of the things that we're announcing today with Foundry Control Plane is agent level, so tool call level guardrails. So traditional guardrails around models are always just the prompt and the completion, right? So you can, after the prompt is submitted, you can run checks on things like violence and self-harm. You can run checks on jailbreak to see if somebody's trying to jailbreak the model. And when the completion comes back through, you can run a similar set of checks to see if the completion contains content safety violations. I spoke to how guardrails traditionally at the model level. Still important, still necessary, but by no means sufficient. You can't just have input and output guardrails and expect your agents to be secure. You need guardrails at the tool level. And so the way I like to talk about it is that there are 6 intervention points, or sort of 6 attack vectors with every agent run. So still the input, but then there is the tool selection, so which tool is being chosen. There is the tool data ingress, so the data that is flowing into the tool. There is the tool response. Then there is the tool data egress, the tool that is flowing out of, or the information that's flowing out of the tool. And then, of course, the ultimate response. So there are 6 data points. And so you still need those model guardrails, but you need guardrails at the agent runtime that checks all of those 4 things in between around those tool calls. And so if you go into Foundry today as a developer, and you go to the build tab and you build an agent in Foundry, you will see that one of the things that you can associate with your agent alongside tools, alongside knowledge, are guardrails. And those guardrails we break down into several different categories, things like jailbreak, things like prompt injections, things like sensitive data. So you select the risk that you're trying to mitigate. And then, crucially, the next step is now called intervention points. So it's like, at what point in the agent runtime do you want to invoke this guardrail? And things like sensitive data, PII, you probably want to invoke it at every single step, especially if your company is really concerned with protecting sensitive data and ensuring that it doesn't get into the hands of somebody that you don't want it to get into. For something like jailbreak, still probably just on the ultimate or the original input, because that's what the definition of jailbreak is. For something like task adherence, you're going to want to do that on the tool selection, because the way that task adherence guardrail works is it checks what the agent's instructions are, it checks what your prompt was in terms of the intent, determines intent, and then it checks against the tool that's being selected to say, does this make sense? Is this agent adhering to the task and to its instructions? And so we have this new set of intervention points that you can choose, and you can apply to any of the guardrails that you apply to agents that you have built in Foundry. So that's the last part of sort of stay secure that we're very excited about and is launching today inside of the Microsoft Foundry product. So now I will talk a little bit about stay secure and some of the things that we do in Foundry Control Plane to help developers, after they have deployed, keep their agents secure. So I was going to do a flyby. I encourage you all to go to Microsoft Foundry to toggle on the new experience, which is the experience launching today. And there's an Operate tab. The Operate tab is basically entirely new, and that's where most of the control plane lives. As a quick flyby of what it contains, it has, first of all, a dashboard for developers. And if you can, again, imagine a case where it's like today, maybe you have a handful of agents that are in production. But as we scale, and people expect that to be sort of our reality over the next 6 to 24 months, is the scaling of agentic fleets. So if you're a developer that's managing tens, hundreds, thousands of agents, you need a dashboard that orients you to like the things that you should be concerned about today and the actions that you should take today, ideally in concert with security signals from things like Purview and Defender, which we do. And so the control plane starts with a dashboard for developers that has a set of alerts. Security alerts powered by Defender, evaluation alerts when automated evaluations have fallen below a certain threshold, cost alerts, et cetera, et cetera. So we have that. And then there's an assets tab that shows you everything, all of your agents, all of your models, all of your tools, and crucially, again, not just the agents that you've built in Foundry, but the agents that you've pulled in from AWS, other places. You can manage them all sort of in one place. Then we have a compliance tab. So crucially, I spoke about the integrations with Defender and Purview. In that compliance tab is where developers can see, okay, here are all of my organization's policies. And then for all of my assets that I've built, all of my agents, all of my models, et cetera, are they in compliance with those policies? And you don't want to have to do guesswork if the answer is no. So if we tell you like, hey, you've got a policy violation, developers can click on that. They can understand exactly what the gap is, and we give them steps to remediate it. So again, it really improves that handshake between developers and the folks in your organization that are setting that policy to make it easier for developers to continuously keep all of your agents and all of your models in compliance with those policies. We have a few other things in control plane that I'm not going to get into in depth. And then I will see if there's anything else I want to mention, given I'm sure I'm over time with some of the technical difficulties. Apologies for that. But I think that generally covers it. So I think the things to keep in mind are that we sort of wanted you to take away from the developer experience is that we have several pieces of the security apparatus at Microsoft that are now sort of sitting much closer to the developer through this control plane. And it's meant to make that handshake, that collaboration between developers and security better than ever at a time that we feel it is crucially important for that handshake and that collaboration to be better than ever. And so with that, one of the things that I was going to show you when I published that agent that I was going to build in the control plane is that every agent that gets published gets assigned an Intra agent ID automatically. So developers don't have to do anything. It just happens. And there's a lot of richness behind that Intra agent ID that helps with security and governance. And my colleague, Leandro, is going to talk about that next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. So my name is Leandro, and then Peter covered the developer journey. I'm going to talk about the security journey, specifically how to manage Agents Pro. So you guys heard one of the big numbers that we mentioned during the keynotes and also a lot of the breakout sessions, which is 1.3 billion agents by 2028. So what's the way to be able to manage those agents? Is actually we need to assign an ID to those agents. But we do have IDs that you guys are probably very familiar with, right? So you have user IDs, app IDs, device IDs, but agents are very specific because of the scale that they have, the type of behavior they perform in tasks as well. So because of that, we need to introduce a specific ID in order to be able to track all those agents and be able to manage the Agents Pro. Then from a Microsoft perspective, we believe that the best way to manage those agents is to leverage the same infrastructure you're using to leverage your users. And by the way, there are 1 billion users being managed by Microsoft Intra today. So we want to leverage and extend the similar capabilities that you're very familiar with now to Microsoft agents as well. With agents, not my specific Microsoft agents. With that context in mind, very excited to share the Microsoft Intra Agent ID is in public preview, and we're extending the capabilities that we announced at Build earlier this year. At Build, we announced the capability to assign specific IDs. Now we're expanding that. You'll be able to register and manage agents. What does it mean? You'll be able to see all the agents in your customer environment. Doesn't matter if they have an ID or not. And it doesn't matter if they're built on the first-party solution from Microsoft or third-party as well. So be able to see all the agents in your environment. The second thing, you'll be able to govern the agent identities and the life cycle. So what does it mean? For example, we want to make sure that the agent through this life cycle has a specific sponsor and a user attached to it as well. So somebody who is responsible and checking for an agent. Yeah. And the last piece is protect agent access to resources. So this is where conditional access actually shines. I'm going to do a demo later how to show how to set up a conditional access policy in order to control the access to resources. So obviously you know that we're covering this presentation that Agent ID works with Microsoft Foundry. Super excited. As Peter mentioned, the moment that the agent they get an LLM assigned, they're going to automatically get an Agent ID. But Agent ID also works with other family of solutions from Microsoft. Copilot Studio for low code in order to build agents. Agent 365, which was announced in the keynote earlier today as a control plane to control all agents. So the discoverability, the registry of agents is actually powered by Intra Agent ID, LinkedIn, Microsoft Teams, and others as well. And on the right side of the slide are the capabilities that we're very familiar with. Authentication, authorization with conditional access, ID governance, ID protection, and also network security, but we are adding the layer of discoverability and registration to really manage the Agents Pro. The next slide, I'm going to show how does it work, and then I'm going to go through a specific demo. So here, imagine that in your tenant, on your company, you have all the agents on the left side. Doesn't matter if they have an ID or not, be it a Microsoft platform or a third-party platform. The key thing that Agent ID is going to be able to provide to all those agents is a specific identifier. With that specific ID, you'll be able to track and see the whole life cycle of that specific agent, make sure it has a sponsor or an owner as well, and then be able to fully control the access that an agent has to specific resources, such as apps, networks, user clouds, and other agents as well. It could be agents with IDs or even agents without IDs. So the platform is able to enable that. Okay. Now, I'm going to go through a quick demo just to show the product UI, how does it look like, and how do you set up a specific conditional access policy. So here, for example, you have the Agent ID overview, which is actually available today. You can go to the Microsoft Intra Admin Center and actually look at it live today. There's going to be a menu under Intra ID called Agent ID. If you click that, you're going to go into the overview page. In the overview, you're going to be able to see in a quick glance, number one, how many agents do you have in your customer environment? In this case, for example, 6,000 agents. How many agents were recently created? I know it's probably very small for you to see, but here is 74. How many are managed? And you can also see trends. So how many agents were recently created, and how many blueprints do we have as well? So this is from an Agent ID perspective. Then you can do a click down into another tab to look for specific agents. Here we can see specific agents, the object ID, which is actually the Agent ID. And if we click into them, you'll be able to see additional metadata, such as when was the agent created, who are the sponsors, what's the status, what's the agent blueprint, which is actually a template in order to create those agents. We spoke about Agent ID, how to see, register, manage those agents. Now let's talk about the conditional access, which is super important in order to control access to resources. So if you click in the Conditional Access tab, it's going to open the specific policies. The first location is going to be an overview of all the policies that you have. How many policies were created, the name of the policies, and then if you click on New Policy, and I'm going to change the zoom a little bit so it's easier for you to see. Then the first thing that you need to do is to create a name for this policy, right? So we're going to create a new policy to manage the agent access to resources. So block high-risk agents is going to be the name. Then we need to choose the assignments. In the assignments, you're going to see what does this policy apply to. Traditionally, users and groups. Now you have a new option, which is to select agents. Here, then you can select if you want to include a specific agent or all agent identities in your tenant. In this case, specifically, I'm going to select all agent identities. Let's say it's the first time that I'm setting up a conditional policies. So because of that, I'm going to select all the agents. Then after that, then we need then to select what kind of resources do we need to restrict the access. So in this case, we're going to do our resources. So if there is any issue, we're going to block access from the agent for now the resources. And then what are the type of agents as well, what type of risk? So you can here configure, say yes, and select high. This is also a new option available for you guys today. One example of a high risk could be if there is a high attempt of signing. So that's something that's going to flag as a high risk from the agent perspective. It's continuously being monitored. After that, you need to grant access control. Then you need to enable, I'm going to change the zoo again, enable the report only in the bottom. It's going to update the policy. And then you can go back to the initial dashboard. And then you're able to see that the block agents with high risk is actually created here. So that's a quick overview about agent ID. And I'm going to turn to Neta to continue from a security perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we saw how developers start secure and stay secure. We saw you can prevent the agent sprawl with identity and access control. Let's see how you can protect against the new AI-generated threat that we saw. So similar to how developers need to start secure and stay secure, security teams also want to start secure and stay secure. We saw agent identity, you start secure, and with access control, you stay secure. You want to also have data posture. You want to start secure by seeing and getting visibility across all your AI to your posture, your data security posture, your security posture. And of course, you want to apply policies and controls across the organization. And you want, of course, to stay secure. You want to make sure that you have data security in place. You want to make sure that you have runtime protection, as Peter showed, and runtime threat protection in place. And you want to have conditional access. So to protect AI from runtime to build, you first want to get visibility across your AI assets. You want to get a unified view of all your AI assets, your data, your models, your tools, your agents. You want to make sure that you have the right posture in place. You don't have any misconfiguration, vulnerabilities. You don't have any agents open to the internet. You don't have any MCPs with vulnerabilities. And you want to defend against the new AI-specific threat. So you want to have prompt injection attacks built in. You want to have data security built in, all of that. And when we look at an AI application, we have several parts. We have the agent on the middle, and then we have the parts that it's connected to, the agent and tools, the other apps and agents, the MCPs, the models, and the users, of course. And models can be local, can be in the cloud, can be everywhere. And you can see that every point here is a point you want to secure, and you want to have posture and know what's happening there. So what are we announcing today? Defender announcing today in preview, and posture for AI agents, so you get visibility across all your AI agents, you get recommendation, and you can see the attack path. You're also going to see that you have now threat protection for AI agents. You can detect and respond to threat in real time and get the right remediation and guidance on what to do. So let's take a very quick look. Here in Defender, you now have a new AI agents tab where you can see the full posture and get visibility into all your agents. You can also see easily and drill down into agent to see, for example, what is this agent, what project it is, what is deployment GPT-4, and to see recommendations. You can see the attack path on the recommendations, and you can see, for example, for this agent that we have 3 recommendations. Let's drill down into one of them. This recommendation shows us that our agent should be configured with instruction, with system instruction. An agent that is not configured properly and doesn't have system instruction is easier to attack and is easier to get an attack path. So here you can see in the description, it tells you exactly what it is, and you also have the remediation details. Now note that this recommendation are visible to the security team, but we said security is a team sport. So these are also visible in Foundry, like Peter showed, for the developer, so the developer can take action on these. And you get a full analysis of the attack path in order to ensure, for example, and verify what are the attack paths that can happen. I make sure that the attacker can reach the sensitive data. I get here a full view of the attack story and all the weak spots that I have so I can harden my environment and start secure. Now moving quickly into threat protection. Here you can see again, Zava, the procurement agent, is running in production, the agent that Peter built. But we can see that there is an attack on this procurement agent. Defender was showing us that there's 2 alerts here. I have a phishing alert and a jailbreak alert on this agent. Luckily, the jailbreak alert is blocked because we have guardrail in place and the agent is safe. But in order to make sure that this agent can still run and is trusted and secure in my environment, let's drill down and see what's happened here. Defender will show you exactly what's happened here. It will also show you the exact prompt, the suspicious prompt segment, that what the attacker was the intent and what he was dying to do. So you can know what was the intent of the attacker and ensure that attackers don't attack only once. They try to attack at different places. So you know it's an intent, and you can go hunt and investigate. So Defender enables you to start secure and stay secure and secure Microsoft Foundry. And with that, I'll hand it to Shravana to talk about data security.
Thank you, Neta. That was an awesome demo. OK. All right, so now let's take a look at another top security concern that customers care about, we all care about here as we're trying to scale AI apps and now this autonomous agents. And that is data security risks. Oops, sorry. And so before we get into how do we protect the data, and what is the approach that we should be thinking about, there are a few critical questions that come to mind. One is, what type of AI apps and agents are in use? So this is something that if you're following the thread here that I think Peter showed us in the beginning in the Foundry control plane, you can see all your AI apps and agents. This is where observability is becoming super important. We are bringing that in Defender, we are bringing that in Intra, and we will take a look at how we are bringing that in Purview. The second is who has access to these apps and what permissions do they have? Right? And then thirdly, what type of sensitive data is flowing into these apps and agents? What about the responses, if those responses are protected and governed, and if they are safe and compliant? So I'll bring you back to this screen that Peter showed earlier. And I want to take a moment to re-emphasize that how easy now we want to make sure that developers can enable Purview from this screen, from Foundry control plane. And what this does is really enables the data protection of your agents, data governance, and data compliance directly from here. It allows this data, the Foundry agent interaction data, to flow into Purview. That's great, but Shravana, what does that mean for security admins? What does that enable for us? How many security admins? Sorry, I was inside and I didn't see. How many security admins here? OK, thank you, thank you. When you enable Purview in Foundry control plane, these are some of the core benefits that you get. Number one is visibility into that sensitive data leakage, and that comes in your prompts and responses. The second is, are you able to identify and respond to risky behavior or policy violations that are happening or not? Third, are you able to prevent any type of data oversharing? And this is the part which Peter was trying to show you with this video of the Azure AI search. How are you building these apps and agents which are trying to honor the sensitive data labels that you set in Purview? And fourth, are you able to set up your organization so that they are able to meet these legal requirements, have archives so that they can have further investigation? With that, let's take a quick example here. Sorry, we are very short in time, so I'll just keep it just the critical areas. As we see here in the screen, this is a Java Assist agent. Right? And the Java Assist agent is being used by this consumer, or actually internal employee, Mona, who is trying to really get to all the credit card details here. And you would also notice there is a classic jailbreak attempt that was made. This is, if you have attended all the other sessions, as probably you know by now, this is the Purview's AI landing zone, which is the AI observability. And again, ties us back to how you can now in Purview see all the apps and agents, including the Foundry agents. But this is also the place where you get to see all the risks, the interactions that the agents are having with sensitive data. So let's take a look at our Java Assist agent. Here we can very quickly see that there's a high risk, there's oversharing, data exfiltration. I'll skip through some of these screens, but what I want to take your attention to is this. As you can see here, you can now see the jailbreak attempt in Purview that was detected, which we just saw in the screen earlier. When I click into this interactions, when I click into I'm sorry, let me just go back. Yeah, when you click into the interactions and communication compliance, it takes you to this new page, which is a policy in communication compliance. And it's a new policy called the Foundry Interactions. How many of you have been using communication compliance in Purview? Okay. If you have used communication compliance before, you know that you can detect Microsoft 365 or Microsoft 365 Copilot interactions visibility into the compliance. And now we are extending that to Foundry. So skip through that, but what you really see here is all the flagged content that has been shared with this agent. You can see all the occurrences of the flagged content plus the jailbreak attempt in Purview through this policy template. So this is what exactly the policy looks like. So this is new. This is what we are announcing in public preview. We also have the product PM here if you have any questions on this. But this is the policy which now will allow you to configure the guardrail filters, which we call the guardrails. You would have probably seen it in Foundry. These are the responsible AI guardrails, like your violence, your jailbreak attempt, if there is unethical content, how you're detecting that and making sure that you have the visibility into compliance. And this is what it gives you. With that, I know the session is complete, and I may have to close, right? Okay, so I'll close with this. If you have two takeaways from my part, one is you can now enable Purview in Foundry control plane. It is very easy to use that toggle button and enable that. Second, when you enable that, you get a bunch of the benefits that I showed you earlier in Purview. And the third is this Purview communication compliance policy for Foundry. This is a shift because this is now allowing you to have detect the compliance visibility into these interactions that are happening with the agents. And so it can support your organizational commitment to compliance. With that, thank you all so much for your time and attention. We apologize for the live demo that we couldn't show you, but thank you for sticking around. Thank you.